as it turned out, I didn't know at the time, but then someone said to me, well, have you heard about Robert Hansen? And I said, no. And they said, you should go and look into it. Because I'd never started out thinking I want to tell a serial killer film. I wanted to, I was like trying to make my first film. It wasn't like, oh great, good idea, find a serial killer that nobody's talked about and go and make a film. It wasn't like that at all. It was almost the opposite. And when I found out it was real, I really didn't want to do the film, because it was like, well, if I'm going to do it, how truthfully I would want to do it would mean I'd need all the support of the real people, and if they didn't want me to do it, then I wouldn't do it. And then I thought, okay, I've read enough. I'm not going to make too much of a fool and ask too many stupid questions. I'm going to ring the real cop out of the blue and see whether he'll even talk to me. And I did, and that was Glenn Floethy. And he said, well, I'd said to him, look, I want to do a victim story with as much integrity to the facts as possible, and I don't want to glorify a killer, and it's going to be a film structure, not a documentary, so I'm going to have to make some changes, but I want to tell it as honestly and respectfully as we possibly can, and it's also going to be really intense and full on. And he said, well, come on up and meet me and we'll talk about it and we'll see. And I went up the next day to Alaska in the middle of winter. It was like February 2009, and he said 3 hours of coffee with his wife, and he said, okay, I'll help you. I don't know, for whatever reason it was, I'd gone through a kind of a Nicolas Cage catch-up on DVD. And it wasn't by any design. We just ended up watching a series of films, probably because they weren't serial killer films, more than anything. And growing up watching every one of his films, he's amazing. So there's a few films which I hadn't seen, and I was thinking, and I'd watched Kick-Ass, and I thought, God, he's amazing with that girl. Like, there's an incredible paternal relationship there. And then I watched Knowing, and exactly the same thing happened. And then, is it Matchstick Men? Mm-hmm. Ridley Scott. Exactly the same thing. And I was like, he's got this real empathy, or a real great way of relating to younger actors. And that's exactly what Halcombe has. He also has this, he has a real weight to him and a real, seriousness that he can portray, and he's amazing. And so it was kind of but that real paternal side of his relationship with Cindy Paulson, Vanessa, and that he sees in her sort of a young girl that he would like, his either a combination of his daughter or his sister or anybody who's just like an innocent child, but she's in this brutal world that he can't quite get his head around.
Well, Vanessa, I mean, now she's done Spring Breakers, but I imagine when you cast her it was before all that, so that was probably a very out-of-the-box casting as well.
Yeah, she had just finished Gimme Shelter, which is a much grittier what she's done to her look and that sort of thing. I haven't actually seen the film, but I knew that she was obviously trying to, move into more serious type of performances, and so, but I'd been looking. Literally every agent and every actress wanted the role. There's not many roles for a 17 to 23-year-old girl that come along where you're the lead. And I think she's really the lead to me. She's like the heart of the film. Where you have such intense kind of, this is kind of like, the old days of Jodie Foster got lots of great roles when she was young. And from Taxi Driver to The Accused and I always had that in my mind. I was like, I'd like to write Cindy's role so that it has got that kind of performance that you don't see much of that anymore. It's like, you have to go back to the 70s to get a really good young actress having a really good role. And Jennifer Lawrence, in Winter's Bone, the exception of what you see these days, and they're actually the considerable lead in the film. And so we'd been, I think 40 or 50 young actresses, amazing talent had come in and read and gone on tape and whatever, and then Vanessa came in late. She'd been in New York or somewhere away, and she came back and she was like, please, please, please. And we're like, great, come on in. She came in and she hit every one of those beats, and she, I hadn't even given her the background, and we just sat there going, wow, she's amazing. Wow. And she was so committed and so, I want this, I will do anything. And I said, well, good, because you're going to get so thrown in the deep end. I sent her out with vice cops in Alaska, and she was having people thrown onto the hood of the car the car she's sitting in, being slammed on the windshield, and she wasn't expecting that. She was just expecting a drive around. She spent days in clubs, to learn, not, these girls work a business. They don't just get up and take the gear off. It's a business, and they know who you are before you even know that they're coming, and they know how they're going to get all your money. And they work it, they're professional about how they do it. And so she learned all of that. Not that she needed to, but it's kind of, I wanted her to understand it's not just about getting up and getting your clothes off. And then she spent a lot of time with the real Cindy. And I said to the real Cindy, like, you need to take the gloves off and tell her the worst stuff, because she's only going to get one chance to portray this character. And I really want her to be able to understand your life, so she has something solid, rather than trying to grab it from any girl that she can interview or whatever like that. And said to Vanessa, don't go and interview lots of girls. There's only one person you should really talk to. And she did, and she was amazing.